Learning reflection. How not to jump to conclusions. The experiential learning cycle is a 4-step method that we've been using in this course to reflect on meaningful moments or puzzles in the classroom. In the first stage, we describe this moment in as many details as possible. What did I, the teacher, say or do? What did the students say or do? What was the classroom environment like? When we've finished our description, we analyze it, reading it through, and coming up with as many possible reasons as we can for why this situation happened. The third stage is to make generalizations, meaning connections between the reasons that we came up with and our teaching beliefs, as well as theories of learning. Through this, we choose the reason that we think is most likely, and we make a plan of action based on that reason. Each stage has its own challenges. One challenge in the analysis stage is the tendency to jump to conclusions. Newer teachers do this, but experienced teachers can do this as well. Newer teachers might not recognize all the aspects involved in teaching, or they might conclude that because the students were happy, the class was a success. Experienced teachers might think that they've seen it all and so understand what's going on in the classroom. I think the main reason why teachers jump to conclusions is that they're letting assumptions cloud their judgment or thinking. In other words, jumping to conclusions happens when we look at a situation with our minds already made up about it. We lead with our assumption. When we do this, life is simplified because we don't have to acknowledge that issues or situations could be more complicated than they first appear. Simplifying life makes it easier to deal with. But doing so doesn't really mean that life is simple, just that we want to see things as simple. The complexity of the situation hasn't changed, but there are limits on how much of it we're willing to deal with, even though it means that we're ignoring evidence that doesn't fit the assumptions we're bringing to the situation. Honestly, the reflective teacher can't afford to jump to conclusions about what's going on in the classroom because it doesn't serve our students' learning. Learning is complicated, and ignoring that is a disservice to our students. So what's the best antidote against jumping to conclusions? It's practicing the reflective attitude of open-mindedness. John Dewey identified open-mindedness as entertaining different perspectives, that is, to examine a situation from various angles and points of view. Open-mindedness is the attitude of the teacher as a problem solver, not as someone who automatically knows all the answers. It's the attitude of being open to the learning that's happening and can't always be controlled. The open-minded teacher acknowledges the possibility of being wrong, of analyzing and thinking through an issue and not getting the right answer. But we don't serve our students' learning when we're trying to force the evidence, either consciously or unconsciously, into a preconceived or predetermined interpretation. When we experience the attitude shift towards open-mindedness, we find it easier to do the two important key elements of analysis: connect the possible reasons to the evidence that you collected, and generate multiple possible reasons for the situation you're looking at. First, let's look at connecting the
Created using Powtoon.